Sarah with NextGEN Medium. Today we're going to talk about my own personal story of my spiritual awakening. Yeah, I'm going to talk about what it felt like, but more importantly, I'm going to talk about the things that led up to it, the thing that triggered it, and what I've done since my spiritual awakening, and how it continues, and it will never end, ever. That's coming up this week on NextGEN Medium, the vlog. Hey troopers, Sarah with you for NextGEN Medium. My daughter's over there and I'm feeling kind of self-conscious. My name is Sarah Nickerson. I'm a psychic medium, not really a psychic medium because that denotes that some people have it and some people don't. That's not what I believe. I believe everybody has psychic abilities. I believe everybody has intuitive abilities. And I believe that you have that too. So that's why I set up this whole network, this vlog, my blog, my podcast, my website, is to help you tap into that. And what helped me tap into that was a course that I took that spurred my spiritual awakening. So let's get into my story, and what I want you to take away from it isn't necessarily the experience of having the spiritual awakening, but what led up to it and what I've done now because of it, and how it's still happening. Alright, so what I think is important about my spiritual awakening and telling it to you is what led up to my spiritual awakening. When I was 13, I think my consciousness became a little bit higher and I started getting interested in New Age stuff. So back in the day, New Age stuff was spiritual stuff and psychic stuff and medium stuff and divination and stuff like that. So I was kind of into it. I would go to the bookstore and go in that section and be interested in what was in that section. But ultimately, when I was growing up, it was all about music and art. These were things I could create, things that helped me figure out who I was, what I felt. I think music and art helped me process things. It was also therapeutic for me to feel like I had a voice and that what I felt, what I knew was of importance, and music and art was a product of that. So that stuff became much more important to me and my focus than anything to do with psychic or medium stuff. But when I was 13, I did have an experience. I did have a premonitional dream about a pair of pants. And it was like a super mundane kind of dream. Despite its like unimportance in real life, it was shocking to me that it happened, and it was convincing that I had a psychic experience. Did I think I was psychic? No. Did I think I had a psychic experience, like it was somehow detached of who I was? Yes. It wasn't until I moved out of the house that I started going to gallery readings, and even then I was still not sure about psychics and mediums, and I would go to these gallery readings as sort of an observer and not buying into it, but you know, still keeping my skepticism in my hand, you know, while I was there. But I would go to gallery readings a couple times a year, maybe once every couple years, through my young adulthood, and even till now I go to gallery readings. As the years went by and I started gaining more and more of these readings that were 5-10 minute readings, things started getting more specific, more accurate, and became more evidential to me that these people knew more than they should. A couple years ago, after a gallery reading, I was told by the person who was doing the psychic medium readings that night that there was going to be a one-day intro to mediumship course, and to look out on Facebook for it to be coming in the months to come. And so eventually it came around and I signed up, and I went to it. This course, this day, was the day that triggered my spiritual awakening. By that point, I was 33, had 3 kids by that point, 333. See how the numbers are in there? You saw that? I just figured that out. I'd started probably the 8th career of my lifetime, the 100th job, always trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. Like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? There was never anything that really stuck out to me as this was my purpose, you know? And little did I know that it was going to be the experience that was going to open the door to seeing a glimpse of what I was capable of doing, and a truth that was brand new to me and has changed my perspective and my priorities in the past couple years. Saturday, September 15th, 2018, and that was the day of an 8-hour intro to mediumship course. So I went there, and there were probably 10 people. I didn't know anybody. I never know anybody. That's kind of my MO. And there was a psychic medium who was leading the workshop, and she put us through some exercises, and she had us do guided meditations, which I'd never done before. And I go through specifics of what that stuff was in my blog. If you want to check that out, check out those details. The exercise that really hit me was an exercise where we were supposed to give a message to the person to our left. And so I don't know these people, and okay. So our psychic medium person that was running the show, she kind of brought us down to sort of a quiet place in our minds and basically just let us go with whatever was going to come in. And so I sat there and I waited for a second and kind of cleared my mind, but with this subtle intention that I wanted to get a message for this guy over here. I visualized, I had basically had a photograph put up to my face, like this close, but with my eyes closed. And in my mind's eye, I could see this guy's face in black and white, and I could even see the pores in his face. And he relayed to me how he felt, what his life was like. He relayed to me that he had glaucoma. I could tell from his eyes, the cloudiness in his eyes. I even felt a pain in my head behind my eye, which I attributed to a stroke. Once we were kind of brought to reveal what our messages were for each other, I passed my stuff along to the guy next to me, the guy on my left, and he was able to confirm these details. And in my blog, I get a little more detailed with, you know, the confirmations, and it was then that I realized that there's a lot of coincidences here, but the experience I had in feeling the emotion of this person, seeing him so clearly in my mind's eye, was enough to put me over and becoming a believer and having witnessed firsthand something I never experienced before. And that was when the workshop turned from, you know, oh, let's see what happens, to holy shit. What just happened? Am I capable of doing this kind of stuff? Rest of the session, I was amped. At one point we had a break in the middle of the day, and I just wanted to go outside and run around the block just because of the energy I felt, the excitement I had. Once we came back from break, my energy just dropped. The class was over, me and my husband, we went out for dinner that night. We came back because I was just so tired. This is kind of a weird part of the story where that's when I started having weird phenomena happening. That night, the night of the workshop, I keep kind of getting woken up, but not woken up where I'm opening my eyes, just kind of like you're aware that you're kind of coming to. Not only was I experiencing that, but I was able to see the wall without my eyes open. Like I could feel my eyes closed. My eyelids were shut. I could feel my eyelashes on the bottom of my eyelids. But I was seeing the wall. It was like I was seeing through my eyelids. That is something in particular I remember that happening that night. The next day, I was exhausted, I was tired, I had a massive headache, I just wanted to sleep. The day that followed was a work day. It was a Monday. I started having really high anxiety, and I have felt this anxiety before to this intensity years ago. And the first time around that I have felt like this, it was just as concerning. It kind of came out of nowhere and really shook up my life. It's what started me taking anti-anxiety medication. Here I am years later and still taking anti-anxiety medication, and I'm having the feeling of a panic attack. Like it's in me. I can't get it out. I didn't really know what to do, what to make of it. I felt like it had something to do with what was happening, with this new reality, this new awareness, this new knowing. And so I got a hold of the psychic medium that had the workshop, Melissa. And I said, Melissa, what am I supposed to do? I'm freaking out. Maybe this is like a spiritual awakening thing. Like, I don't know. So she said to practice white light meditation. And that is actually a meditation I have a video for you guys. You just close your eyes and I just talk you through it. And you just turn on the movie in your brain and you just visualize and make it a reality in your head, you know what I mean? I took her advice and I did white light meditation 3-4 times a day. By day 3, I could already feel a difference. Day 4, it was a little bit more, you know, feeling a little better, and then more better as the days progressed, until finally I was back to normal. When my anxiety started lessening is when I believe that characteristic spiritual awakening happened for me. As the anxiety was being peeled off of me, it was sort of exposing me to this feeling of joy and gratefulness and unity. It's like how people say it, you know? The other odd experience was feeling space differently, feeling the openness to the sky, like feeling that the sky wasn't so far away, that it was reachable. It's weird to say it, hear myself saying it. It's weird hearing other people say it because it's like, what kind of drugs were you on? But this is what it felt like. These were the things that it was like to experience this spiritual awakening. I theorize going through those guided meditations was a way for me to use my brain in a way that I had never done before. Instead of having a mission, having an intention that I have for myself in my brain, telling my brain what to do, going through these guided meditations is a way for you to kind of shut off telling your brain what to do and just let something else fill up the canvas in your mind's eye. And I'd never experienced anything like that before these guided meditations at this workshop. And I believe it was through these guided meditations opening that door and doing the exercise of reading people in the room and telling what you got. I think that opened up a new truth for myself, which is something I carry with me now. So, you know, everything's beautiful, everything's, you know, that spiritual awakening part is like an infatuation. It's like you're in love and it feels really good and you never want it to end. Your priorities change, the way you think of things change, but eventually that feeling kind of gets muffled and then kind of disappears. And it's sad. It's like the honeymoon is over. Even though you want to stay in that place where it feels so good, you have to come back to earth, get grounded, but you have responsibilities. You know, I have 3 kids, I have a house, I have, you know, bills and a job, and I can't just stop everything because my priorities all of a sudden have changed, like overnight, 3 nights. And so it can be really hard to do things after your spiritual awakening because you realize how dumb so many things are that were so important to you at one point. I used to be very particular with a lot of things, and it would get me really stressed out if these things weren't done the way that they were supposed to be done. And after my spiritual awakening, that shit didn't matter anymore. Hey, it's getting done, right? I noticed time was really hard for me to gauge. And I used to be really like proud of the fact that I could gauge how much time had passed. And there are plenty of things that happened after, but the big takeaway is, yeah, that magical feeling is gone, but with that magical feeling, you start setting up a new plan for yourself. And you start setting up this idea of, how can I do this for others? You know, how can I have other people experience this too? Because this is so amazing. And so that became my mission, to uncover more of my psychic mediumship, to go out of my comfort zone and make appointments with people that I knew so that I could do sittings and readings with them and feel like a fool because maybe things would be wrong. But what always pulled me through was, I'm just gonna give them what I get. You know, I have no intention of fooling them, and there's only so much I can do to convince people of that. But my intention is true, and if my intention is true, then what I get is what's supposed to be given. It is yet to fail me, even though I'm nervous about doing a reading or sitting every time I'm scheduled to do one. What pulls me through is, Sarah, get out of the way and sit down and just give them what you get. That journey took 2 years for me to get to where I am right now, sitting in front of a camera and talking to you, and having created all this other stuff about psychic mediumship, psychic development, and going at it from my own experience and the stuff that I've gained. And this is the most personal thing I've ever done, because it really lets you get into my story. But I think it's also relatable in that I didn't know I was a psychic medium for 33 years. I'll say 34 years, because it took me a year to convince myself that that's what was actually going on. I wanted it to be true, but I needed my skepticism to hold me sane, you know what I mean? But it did take a while for me to say to myself, like, I have psychic mediumship abilities. And to not feel dumb saying that. That's how I serve. And that is a phrase, when you have your spiritual awakening, that you should be thinking about. How can I serve? Do it in a way with integrity, with good intentions, with honesty, humility, and that has been my mission the whole time I've been doing this. And I hope it shows, and I hope it helps you get you to where you need to go. So in my story, I didn't know I was a psychic medium for a long time. And even when I opened the door a little bit, and there was a great example where once I first started, I was getting good information. I was passing along. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Like, still convincing myself that was coincidence. And for a year, everything was coincidental. And very rarely was there anything that just really shook me to the core, because I wouldn't let it happen. I couldn't convince myself of it. But now, it's for real. I have psychic mediumship abilities, and I believe that everybody has it. And so, what I would recommend to you, try out that white light meditation. That was the first thing that started our course, that 8-hour course, that one day in September 2018, and set me on a journey. And here I am 2 years later, saying to you, my truth is, what I have learned, what I have experienced, is that I have psychic mediumship abilities and that you have it too. So go forth, go do your thing, and just remember some of the stuff from my story. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it can't happen. But you do have to earn it. You do have to do things that make you uncomfortable. This is you living your life. And it's this breadth and depth that the universe sees, and they will meet you halfway. All right, so my memory card is telling me to stop. And so I'm gonna end it here. Find out more information on my blog at nextgenmedium.com. I will also have my podcast in there, so if you're more of a listener and you like the storytelling aspect, then that's gonna be on the blog as well. But I get very detailed with my blog, and you get to learn more about my history and really see that my story of growing up in a non-religious house and a quiet upbringing and a little bit of interest in the new age stuff, how maybe that's relatable for you, in that I wasn't really into this stuff and I kind of had curiosities in it for a while. But here I am, like, fully in it, embracing it and practicing it. And all right, I'm gonna stop there. That does it for this week on NextGen Medium, the blog. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll chat with you soon. See you, bye.